Paul Ryan here, and I'm going to express a moment of serendipity. I was walking this afternoon at this beautiful Marriott Playa Andalusia in Spain, and I was feeling a little hungry, and Adam Young, who's Dr. Robert Young's son, said, "Paul, why don't you stop at John's place and get some soup? They have some soup left." And I thought, perfect. So I came in, and as I came in, they were doing foot baths, ionic foot baths, which was demonstrated by Rano. And I got to have a foot bath and got to eliminate a lot of toxins. And then I meet our fabulous guest today, Matthew Armstrong. And you know, sometimes you meet somebody and you know it's sort of a destiny to meet somebody who sort of like, you know, similar minds, like consciousness, a spirit that you go, aha, I like this person. I can tell that I could learn something here of some things that I really wanted to learn. So Matthew, I want to thank you for sharing who you are and your story of your recovery from a health challenge, which was asthma, and how you went on green juices and you read Dr. Young's book, and you eventually got into some visualization. And I sneeze, which means it's true. So I'm impressed by that because I have sort of the way you expressed it, that your subconscious can believe and learn anything. I'm sure that you could share a little something about that that could inspire somebody watching.
Okay, yeah, great. Well, first of all, thank you, Paul. I felt the same way today when I met you, almost like I recognized you.
Yes.
When you walked, I thought, I know that guy, or something like that, you know. Yeah, so I feel the same way, definitely.
And the fact that you've been to Los Angeles and you knew about Agape and you've done the Los Angeles scene, you know, that was sort of an aftermath. But, you know, I'm on this retreat that Dr. Young has put together, and it feels like more than just a health retreat, because I'm meeting like spirits that I was supposed to meet.
Yeah.
And that's hard to explain to people, but I feel that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about the visualization, because the way you expressed it was very meaningful.
Okay. Well, just to go into the full story, right? Because visualization is phenomenal. There's more to it.
Yes.
There's more things that need to be in place for it to be effective, I believe. And for me personally, I had a fairly serious health challenge where I had asthma. I couldn't breathe properly. And if you know what it's like to not be able to breathe properly, that's a serious health challenge. It's really prevents you from doing a lot of things in your life.
And you got it at what age? At what age?
I was diagnosed at 5. I was diagnosed with asthma at 5 years old. I was taking an inhaler from that age, and I would need to take my inhaler maybe 5-6 times a day at least. I was overdosing on it. I was only supposed to take it 3 times a day.
So backing up for 1 second, what caused the asthma, do you think, in the first 5 years of your life? What caused it?
What caused it? Well, doctor said different things. Doctor said, oh, he's allergic to this, that, the other. Probably some traumatic experiences would have contributed to it. That's a big factor as well.
But what do you think it was?
I'd say it was a combination of a lot of things. I think things happen on different levels. So physically you could say, yes, I had some allergies. Yes, I had toxins in my system. You know, I shouldn't have been having all the dairy in my system that I was taking. You know, with the nutrition, you know, there's all these like factors that you can look at. Oh yes, there were some traumatic experiences that can add to it. And then on a like a really like deeper level, I suppose we have things to learn in our lives, and everything happens for a reason. And
so you think you would be different if you didn't have the asthma and that didn't put you on the journey?
Absolutely. I really see it now, looking back at my life, looking at other people's lives, that it's the challenges that we have that really make us or break us, and we can choose whether to see that as a challenge to be overcome or to shy away from. And but the challenges will keep coming until we decide to
learn the lessons,
overcome them, and that's really what it's about. So I see asthma as a gift. I don't see it as a like an issue or a problem. I see it as a gift because I treated it like that and I looked at it rather than shied away from it.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine in LA, and she had cancer, breast cancer, and she wrote a book called The Gift of Cancer, because she really went deep in her journey to recovery.
Yeah.
So here you are, you have this asthma, and you're taking the inhaler 6 times a day, and then you get to a point where you go, aha, an aha moment, as Oprah Winfrey would say, and you thought, I got to start reading.
Well,
alternative ways.
Yeah, at that stage it wasn't reading. At that stage it was I had a desire. I had a desire that I wanted to achieve something in my life, and I wasn't going to be able to achieve that with asthma. And that was, I wanted to become a Royal Marines Commander.
How old were you when you had this realization?
Well, from a very young child, I knew I wanted to be this elite soldier. I wanted to
elite soldier.
Elite soldier.
What does that mean, elite soldier?
Elite means
top of the line.
Yeah, creme de la creme.
Got
creme de la creme, best of the best. You know, like special forces type, that sort of thing. But when I was in my mid-teens, suddenly, okay, this isn't so much of just a dream anymore. That's in the future. This is coming close, and I need to make this a reality. This is at the time where, okay, this is something I need to do in my teens. This is something I need to do as soon as I leave school. And then at 16, I started to think, okay, well, I have asthma here. Let's look at the reality of it here. Can I do this? And then I said to myself, well, I wouldn't have had this desire all my life if I didn't have the potential to do it. I don't believe that our Creator really gives us a desire like that, such a strong desire, without having the potential to actually fulfill it. So I saw it as something that I was going to do, and nothing was going to get in my way. And at the time, a lot of things were in my way, especially the environment I had, the people around me, who were telling me that I couldn't do it.
Doctors and family members,
school teachers, friends. Because literally at school I couldn't run the cross-country race without stopping halfway, doubling over, puffing my inhaler a number of times. I went to my doctor. He would always check me out, give me a new improved type of inhaler. But I was still puffing it 10 times a day sometimes, and every time I ran or anytime I did any sort of activity, anytime I went from hot to cold weather or was in a dusty environment, my tubes closed up. Quite seriously, where I would be gasping for breath, like literally.
So going through all these health challenges and realizing that you wanted to be an elite Marine, what was the seed of the thought that said, I've got to do something about it, I've got to do something differently, I've got to make the change? Can you capsulize that?
I'm trying to think when the moment was. I don't know if there's an actual moment, but once I got the forms, I filled them in and sent them off, and that's kind of set the wheels in motion of this is something that's real, this is something that's going to be happening. I've sent in the forms to apply, and
so you took action regardless of your condition.
Absolutely. That's
what you did.
Yeah.
So that's number one, is taking action and trusting the universe supporting you.
Well, for me, number one is desire. I saw it as like, when I look back years later, after I've read all the books, after I learned all the personal development, after learned how the mind works, how the universal laws work, when I look back, so how did I do that? How did I turn something around that all these people around me, all these authority figures, school teachers, doctors, etc., were telling me, sports teachers were telling me that I couldn't do? How did this 16, 17-year-old kid decide that they were all wrong and I could do this? And it was just a deep felt desire. It was deep felt desire, and then because I had so many reasons why. I had so many reasons why I wanted to do it. It was like that's I cut off from all other options. I made a decision. That's what I'm going to do.
So when you say desire, because a lot of people can feel desire, but it sounded like you had something like a higher frequency of desire.
Right. Yeah. Sure. There's different types of desires. I believe this is more like a divine sort of desire. It's not like the desire to have some chocolate ice cream, or the desire for, a a woman you see walking down the street, you know. I think there's a deeper sort of desire. It's something that is, you know, soul-fed or something. And then with that burning desire, you get a belief. You get a strong belief. And once you have a belief, then things happen. The desire and the belief together, that makes you take action.
So the belief for you was, I can be an elite Marine.
Yeah, I absolutely believed it. And I believed that I was in charge of my body and I could turn it around somehow. I didn't really know how, but I just knew I could. And so I started taking actions. I started training incredibly hard, you know, running for an hour every day through this forest trail up and down hills, picking up logs, carrying them.
Had you started the juices yet?
No. At this point, I was...
faith. You were working on faith. Yeah, you were running on faith.
Nutrition wasn't part of this whole thing. Nutrition wasn't part of it. This was... My mind overcame on this instant. The nutrition came in years later, after I had left the Marines and my knees were in bits.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. That mentally...
I turned it around mentally and physically through the training, because I would go on runs and my lungs would be burning, my tubes would be closing up, and I'd say, okay, this time I'm just gonna run an extra 100 meters before I puff my inhaler, and then so I'd run an extra 100, puff my inhaler, stop, get my breath back, start running again, and I was cycling 36 miles a day, I was swimming, I was going to the gym every day. I decided that whoever else was joining, I had to train 10 times harder than anyone else for me to do it.
That's an inspiring story, it really is.
So I said, because I had this health challenge, I had to do more than other people that didn't have health challenges did for me to actually do it. I decided whatever was in my lungs, I was going to blow it out of there, you know.
And what was it? What was in your lungs? Toxic acid.
I suppose so. You know, doctors would give you different explanations.
Right, but you didn't know about alternative health at that time.
No, it was just you know, different. I was allergic to different things. Different things would make it go inflamed. Activity. You can't be allergic to activity, but apparently so. So yeah, once it was stimulated, inflammation would happen, and that would close up the tubes. So, and then the only thing that would open them was an inhaler, but that took time. It wasn't like puff and that's it.
When you say tubes, are you saying lungs?
The tubes that go into your lungs.
Tubes that go into the lungs?
Yeah, yeah. So the next thing was I visualized, and I did a lot of visualization exercises. I would see myself running for miles and miles and miles, with my lungs working perfectly, breathing really deeply, and not getting worn out, not getting breathing issues. I would look up at the stars at night. I'd lie up and look up at the stars, and I'd visualize myself just as connecting to the stars and being able to do anything, and my lungs healing and my body healing. And then I'd also visualize myself at the end of my Marines training receiving my green beret, what people were saying to me, how I felt. I visualized myself going all around the world, traveling with the Marines. I visualized my life, and I put in all these details of exactly how everything was going to be.
When you say visualization, because some people have heard it, some people may not be totally hip to it. Yeah. How would you define it? You're seeing visual pictures in your mind's eye with your eyes closed, or you can also do it with your eyes open? Yeah, you can do it eyes closed, eyes open, seeing visual pictures. But some people say when they visualize, they don't see pictures. They say, I can't visualize. But visualize can happen with different, with different senses. You know, we can feel a visualization. You know, what would it be like to do this thing? And we can feel it. And what's better to do it with all our senses. So when we visualize it, we can see it, actually getting pictures of what we want to occur, whether it's we want to heal, we want to become a better version of ourselves, seeing ourselves as healthy, like I'd see myself running down the road, sprinting without stopping for miles and miles and miles. Just seeing that, feeling the feelings, what it's like, feeling being strong, feeling breathing deeply, feeling being... They always say the feelings, feel the feeling, feel the feeling. Yeah. And that's sometimes a challenge. How did we get through that? Feeling the feelings. I would say just to keep doing it. Mm-hmm. To keep doing it and fully associating with it. Because we can have a visualization where we are seeing ourselves do it.
But that's not quite as powerful as actually stepping into it. Because when we actually step into ourselves, then we're fully associated to it. Otherwise, it's like watching a cinema screen or something. It's watching like a movie happening. And we're not fully associated when that happens. But we can start doing that, then we can step inside the image and actually be it. And once we start to engage all our senses of seeing everything we're seeing, hearing what we're hearing, then feeling it as well, actually feeling the temperature as well, feeling what it's like, feeling the sweat running down our body, feeling the energy running through our body.
So you got better and better by continually doing it. Did you know other people who were doing the same thing?
No,
it was just you.
Yeah, that's
you on your own.
That's the thing. At the time, I hadn't read any books like this. I hadn't read books. I didn't know about personal development. I didn't know about mind and heart work. This was something that
gut level.
Yeah, and actually, I really put it down. A lot of what I put this down to looking at the stars. I believe the stars bring us wisdom
at night.
Yes, great wisdom. And as a young child, I would spend a lot of hours looking up at the stars.
In your bed or outside?
Outside. I'd go up onto the roof and look up and lay on the roof. We had a flat roof, and I'd look up at the stars. Sometimes I'd fall asleep and I'd wake up at 4 in the morning, covered in dew, and get off the roof.
I have to tell you how inspiring that is to hear, because I think I shared with you before that sometimes I look at night, especially when I was walking my dogs, and I'd look a few minutes, but I didn't let it in.
Mm-hmm.
So there's magic in allowing yourself to surrender to the stars.
Yeah, and it's just the realization that we're just infinite, and what is out there is just infinite. It's just lying there and looking at everything and just seeing how vast everything is. And I believe it just really opens our minds. It really opens our minds to more of our potential and our capabilities. The elements of the earth, and in particular the stars, I believe, in particular. So
you're on this journey, and you're visualizing, and it's working for you, and then is it after that you get into the nutritional aspect?
Yeah, well, this was all happening when I was 17 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I was set to join just after I turned 18, and but after the visualization, it was getting up to the point where I was about to join, and I still had the asthma. I was getting fitter, I was getting stronger, I was running further without needing my inhaler, but I was still needing to puff that inhaler.
Was that frustrating?
Incredibly frustrating, because I was giving everything I got. I knew I still wasn't there.
Wow, there was something else I had to go get.
Yeah, and it got to the point where I just put my hands together and I said, look, I cannot do this by myself. I said, I'm giving everything I got. I don't know what else to do. I said, please just undo this knot that's in my lungs, this knot that's in my chest, undo it, and I will not give up. I will not fail. I will do everything to move forward and achieve what I want to achieve.
So you were asking Spirit, the presence, whatever you choose to call it, God, you were asking for co-creation, coexistence, you were surrendering.
Yeah, I was surrendering to whatever there was that was more than my conscious mind was.
Yes.
More than I could see or feel or touch, more than my 5 senses could experience.
Mm-hmm.
I surrendered to that and asked for help. And I believed it would come because it came to the day when I was getting on the plane. I was leaving to go over and start my training. And, if I would have been gone day one, if they would have seen me with an inhaler, or if I would have stopped on a run or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the last time I needed my inhaler. And I went over there.
After you did this surrender.
Yeah. I got on the plane, and that was it. I went over. I still had my inhaler with me. It was like my backup. I had it hidden away in the inside pocket of a jacket.
You were 17, 18, how old were you?
18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I went over there just with, I suppose, hope, positive expectancy.
Over where?
Over to England from Ireland.
Okay.
And started my training. Incredibly tough, but the asthma didn't come back. turned out that it actually might have made me fitter because I pushed so hard, because I actually went right to the top of my troop in fitness, and after a number of weeks,
wow,
ended up getting the assault course record for that year, which was faster than about maybe 500 other Marines for that year.
So just to review, there was no alternative foods, there were no juices, nothing yet.
No, nothing.
This is all based on your visualization, your surrender to a higher power, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
and belief.
Yeah.
So you went from desire to belief
Yeah.
to action.
Action, training, whatever it needs to be, whatever it is, and then visualization, surrendering, and then what I suppose the culmination of it all is just an attitude of being unreasonable to status quo, unreasonable to what other people are trying to tell you. You should be doing.
So you visualize. So when you broke these records,
Mm-hmm.
had you had visualizations about or seeing those things come to pass?
Breaking the records and
Yes.
everything? Yeah, absolutely.
You visualized it before you even did it.
I visualized myself.
Did that blow your mind when that
happened?
happened, when you realized that these visualizations have now come to fruition?
It was amazing. I had an amazing few years there, and it was wonderful. I felt very, very grateful, very blessed, and I also felt like I really deserved it. That was the thing. It wasn't like these things happen. I go, wow, why did this come to me?
Mm-hmm.
It was like I really busted my ass to get that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt like it was deserving, and I felt appreciation for that as well.
Wow, great. I don't know, just something like it's like a gift you gave yourself. You gave yourself the gift, and you deserved it. You know, not a lot of people do that. They think about it. They don't move into action.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you went on good faith. And at what point did you start getting into the alternative health?
That was after I'd left the Marines, because as great as it all was, that training has a toll on your body. You know, you're carrying 100-pound packs. You're running down hills, marching up hills with these packs on.
Did it meet your expectations? The Marine, elite Marine?
Absolutely.
It did meet your expectations.
Absolutely.
What did it give you?
It gave me confidence, more confidence in myself. It let me see the world. It gave me amazing experiences.
Mm-hmm.
It gave me a stronger identity about what I could do, what I was capable of. It let me see my limits. And
did you fight? Were there any?
There were some conflicts I was in. Yeah. I never killed anybody, but I've been shot at before a few times.
And the bullets didn't go in you.
No. One of my.
You dodged the bullets.
Yeah, someone on one of my troops, they were shot during in one of my teams. They were shot.
Where were you fighting?
In Zaire, in Congo, Republic of Congo.
Wow, that could be dangerous.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So you.
I was driving a vehicle and it got bullets all up the side of it. Yeah. So very, very.
Was that a thrill, or was that it was thrilling or scary?
No,
or?
it was scary.
Was it an adrenaline rush? Because I often wonder, why do people enlist and do that?
Yeah.
Are you an adrenaline junkie? Were you an adrenaline junkie?
I think as a young age, I just felt like I had something to prove.
To who?
Maybe to myself,
Uh-huh.
To my family, people around me, people who might not have thought that I was who I was. So I felt like I think at the end of the day, we feel we have to prove to ourselves at the end of the day. But it was just something I did as a teenager.
So you're in the elite Marines for how long?
5 years.
5 years, and then you leave.
Yeah, and then I had some major issues with my knees, serious knee injuries from just all the training we did. You know, the pounding on the knees was quite severe throughout marching with the hard boots on roads, on tarmac, going up and down mountains, carrying heavy packs.
And doctor said to you, you went to first doctor and he said, probably surgery.
Oh, he said definitely surgery.
Definitely surgery.
He says, look, he says, I know your history. I know what you've been through. He says you've got the wear and tear in your knees of a 90-year-old. He says nothing we can do apart from give you an operation, and even that won't last forever. You know?
And you've got a second opinion.
Went for a second opinion because I thought there's no way I'm getting an operation. Second opinion, the doctor says, yes, you need an operation, and he said I would leave it as long as possible because the operation doesn't last forever. And at the time, I just come off a lot of anti-inflammatories and painkillers. I was on them for a few years
Because
of the knees.
of the knee, the pain in the knees.
The pain in the knees was quite unbearable at times. I had knee pain, shin splints, the whole lot. And so even walking was hard. Going up steps was a nightmare.
So Matthew, did you ever think, wow, I went through asthma, I wanted to be a Marine, now I've got all this pain and suffering from being a Marine. What am I doing? Did you think that?
Well, I didn't think, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I suppose I just went with whatever was happening next. I went with whatever was happening next, and so when I came off the painkillers, the pain was magnified greatly, where it was getting to a point where it was hard to function, especially because I like to be active, I like to go to the gym, I like to do martial arts, and I was finding it hard to do those things. And I knew I couldn't take the painkillers anymore because it was actually starting to affect my stomach.
Who was giving you the painkillers?
The doctor.
Medical doctor?
Yeah,
from the Marines?
Prescription. Even when I left the Marines, I was getting prescriptions from my own doctor.
So doctor, and looking in hindsight now that you're into, raw foods and you're a potential speaker.
I tell you, if I would have taken the advice of the medical doctors, my own personal doctors, if I would have taken their advice through everything they said, I would be a complete screw-up now. I'd be a complete screw-up.
You'd be crippled.
I wouldn't have achieved the things I wanted to achieve in life. I would have been living an unfulfilled life, that's for sure, because I would have looked back and think what I could have done but didn't do. And I would have just been on the asthma medication, I would have been on painkillers, and then I probably would have had other health challenges because of the side effects from all those things. So I wouldn't have lived to my potential. If I would have listened to the authority figures in my life, including the teachers, including the doctors, so the thing we got to do, no matter who we are, is listen to that. Listen to our heart.
Listen to your heart.
Yeah.
So listening to your heart, how did you eventually get into the desire for an alternative health route?
Well, it was believing myself that I didn't want someone poking about my knees and cutting into my knees and messing around. To me that wasn't an option. I just knew there was another way. And at the time I hadn't read any health books or anything like that, anything alternative. I just knew there was a better way. But I didn't know what that was. But my gut instinct, my heart said to me, there's a better way, don't go and get that operation. So I walked out thinking, okay, I don't know what it is, but I know there is something. And just by having that attitude, I know there's something, I'm going to find it. Just sending that out into the universe, things start to come to you. People start to give you books. You go, what's this? What's this about? Books start to jump off shelves at you. You walk into a bookstore and suddenly you just think this book almost literally jumps off the shelf. You just reach it and pick it up.
I've heard that many times with Dr. Young's books.
Yeah.
People have said the same thing. All of a sudden, I'm reading this book and that book, and then this book jumps out at me. So
I started reading books on cleansing, detoxing. Robert Young's pH Miracle. Got into all that, especially with all the Tony Robbins. I listened to Dr. Young and Tony Robbins' interview, and thought, okay, that sounds great. And so I went from there, and I went on a 3-week detox, a 3-week cleanse, where I was taking in mainly green juices, mainly alkaline green juices, maybe 95%.
So green juices, broccoli, spinach,
celery.
I
was cucumbers, broccoli, spinach, celery. I was sweetening it with either carrots or apple. I sweetened my juice with either carrots or apple, but the rest of it was green, and also cabbage. I was using all sorts of leafy.
Did you have a juicer?
I had a juicer. I bought a juicer, got a juicer. I remember listening to Tony Robbins and him saying, buy a juicer, it'll take you further than sell your car, buy a juicer, that'll take you much further in life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I remember him saying that, so I got a juicer. And then just following Robert Young's protocol of alkalizing. I thought, okay, I need to alkalize. My body's so acidic. I suddenly understood the acid-alkaline balance and how everything, most things I've done in my life contributed to a lot of acid in my body.
So what were those things you were doing that were making the body acid?
Well, all the training in the Marines, you know, high stress, high intense training, you know, very lots of stress in the joints. The diet that we're put on, eating these ration packs all the time out in the field, you know, very, very processed, very unhealthy, but it was really just to give you as much calories as possible. You know, we would take maybe 7,000 calories a day from one of those ration packs, especially the Arctic ones. You know, and there's a lot of things in there, very sugary and...
Arctic, were you in the Arctic area?
Yeah, we did Arctic training each year. That's one of the things the Marines do, is they train for every single environment. So you go to the Arctic, you go to the jungle, you know, you train for every environment. So in case something erupts somewhere in the world, the Marines are always equipped to go there.
So this is the Irish Marines, or England, or the British Marines. Well, does the Irish?
No,
they don't have that. So the British Marines.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're doing all these juices. You
Yeah.
got the juicer, and you're starting to feel better.
I did it for 3 weeks solid.
Mm-hmm.
3 weeks solid. I took a 95% green juice drinks, and at the end of the 3 weeks, I was completely transformed. The pain in my knees were completely gone.
Mm-hmm.
My eyes got lighter.
Change color?
Changed colour. They were dark brown before, and they went to light brown with a lot of green in them. And when you look close, you could see loads of green that wasn't there before.
Wow.
Yeah. Skin got better, just got brighter, more bouncy, felt lighter.
So basically, most of what you're eating, you said 90-95% of what you're eating is green juices. Were you hungry at the time?
Not really. I was on a mission. You know, I didn't even think about that. I was
So
like
juicing,
yeah.
all the vegetables were going in there.
And one of the funny things was, because I just moved into a new house at that stage when I did this. I moved into a new house. It was like new house, new clean start. I'm going to clean my body out.
I like how you say house. The Irish say house. House?
Right.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. So you're doing all this juicing. For those that don't understand completely the word alkaline, what's another way of saying that?
Another way of saying alkaline?
Yes. Interesting. Well,
What do you mean another way of saying alkaline?
well, in other words, for somebody who hears the word alkaline, those of us who understand what the word alkaline is, it's not acidic.
Okay.
But is there another way that people could get it? That when you say alkaline, you mean green? Plants above the ground?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really like we have acidic foods, alkaline foods, and acidic foods are
dairy, meat, sugar.
sugar, coffee, tea.
Most of what the world eats.
Yeah, processed foods, that sort of thing. Alkaline foods are mainly leafy greens, also cucumbers, avocados, raw almonds, raw foods, not cooked foods, are going to be mainly alkaline. But it's the leafy greens are the big one. I really believe the leafy greens are the big one, and then the green vegetables.
So greens grown above the ground.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were devoid of all acidic foods from that point forward. So you said 3 weeks.
Pretty much.
Did you change after 3 weeks? What happened after 3 weeks?
After 3 weeks, well, that's the thing. After 3 weeks, I stayed on 70 to 80% raw alkaline foods, and then I would have maybe a cooked meal in the evening, but which was a vegetarian towards vegan meal. I completely cut out meat. I cut out 95% dairy. Only that was covert sort of dairy and something that I didn't know. But I didn't buy any dairy at all.
So covert dairy meaning?
Dairy that was in some sort of food that I didn't.
Oh, then you know, got it. Yeah. Disguised.
Yeah.
But got through.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're on that program. What happens next?
Well, I'm feeling great. My health's back. My knee pain's gone. I can do my martial arts and get down into those stances. I'm suddenly don't need any tablets anymore.
So now you're convinced this is the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So then I started teaching people about it. I opened up a center.
Where?
in Enniskillen, called the Human Development Centre.
In Ireland?
Yes, in Ireland.
Mm-hmm. And people were interested?
Yeah, people were interested. And I became a distributor for green product company, and I was distributing the greens to people, and I had people come in for talks. I also started teaching my martial arts there. And I just became an example of it. I believed in it so much because I changed so much of my life through it. So people would come in to me for nutritional consulting and coaching, and things just started to build from there.
So you were teaching through example, and people were saying to you what? Well, I want to be healthy like you.
Yeah, well, people. I put out adverts of if you want to heal yourself of different ailments, diabetes, things like that at the time, asthma, whatever. And so people would come to me, and I would show them what to do and give them nutritional consulting and use my own stories as inspiration and say, this is what I did.
Right.
If you do it,
it could happen to you.
If you do it, you might get the same results.
Now you're involved in potential. Your business is called
Be Your Potential.
Be Your Potential. What does that mean?
That's interesting. To be your potential, it's when I created it myself, I had this inspiration. Everything became very clear. You got to be your potential, because in life people often say, that person's got potential. People go through life thinking that they've got potential, but just be your potential.
Yeah, it's almost like saying become your potential, but making it shorter.
Yes, just step into it. Step into it.
Step into your potential. Because a lot of people, I know, we all have dreams and wishes, and they're sort of out here.
Yeah.
Oh, I want this. Oh, I want that.
Yeah.
What's the step to actually move into?
What
are the steps?
It's your potential is your life. Your life. Everyone's life is waiting for them. And there's a lot of people who go through life, but they never actually live their life.
Yes.
They never actually step into their life.
Yes.
They never actually step into their potential. So for me, that's what it is. Your potential is your life, which is waiting for you. And to be your potential is to live your potential. And it's just to step into it rather than thinking, someday I'd like to do that or that. It's now, every moment. It's not something that's going to happen in the future. It's every moment.
Now, sometimes you can achieve your potential, and then there's like a detour. You fall off the wagon.
But we can be our potential at every single moment. At every single moment, we can be our potential. We can just be constantly stepping into the next grander version of ourselves.
Yeah, I know for myself, and speaking honestly, I've had some very lovely successes. And then sometimes there's a time where it doesn't seem to be happening.
Yeah.
And you go, what happened?
Yeah.
What do you do to pick up the pieces?
You start.
And
you start. It's an awareness, because just like you said there, suddenly you go, what happened? That's suddenly there's an awareness there that suddenly there's been stagnation.
Well, sometimes you have rejection. You go when somebody hits you here, and somebody hits you here, and somebody hits you here.
Yeah.
And you go, time out. I need time out. So you pick up the pieces and say, I got to be the potential.
Yeah, and it's asking questions as well. If something happens and you take a beating in life. Things don't go your way, the wind's in your face for a few years, and suddenly you've gone totally off course.
Yeah.
Of course, it's not. You can start with what happened, but then you got to ask yourself more empowering questions. Questions of how can I get back on course, or what can I learn from all these things that have happened? There's a reason why the wind's been in my face or I've been knocked off course. What can I learn from that, or what have I learned from that? That experience there. How can I actually, what have I learned from it, and what can I take from it to actually apply it in the future?
Has it happened to you at all?
Yeah, a number of times. I've had some horrible times in my life, and it's when I look back on them. When I actually look back on the worst experiences I've had in my life, the most painful experiences, when I look back, I'm more grateful for those experiences than any other experience in my life, because it was those experiences that made me dig so deep down and bring out another part of me that was that might not have ever appeared, a deeper, more powerful part of me.
See, because I've always been Mr. Health,
Mm.
and a few months ago I fell and injured this area here, and whether it was that or something else, but this doctor came in after a blood test and said, you have chronic myelogenous leukemia.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, God, me? And I asked myself, well, I haven't really asked myself,
Right.
truthfully, why would I create that?
Okay.
Why would I create that?
Okay. So you can move from that question to what is the purpose of it?
Well, I think the purpose could be waking me up. I've always been a fast eater.
Mm.
I think I am very sensitive to other people's energies.
Mm.
Because we're working on, and there's been great improvement, but the gut. So I think that I receive stuff energetically in the gut, and woundedness in the gut. Because I think the tip-off was when I was 17, I had a duodenal ulcer.
Correct.
So I think that was a signal, even at that age, that I was receiving it here in the gut. And that's the very thing that I'm working on now, is cleaning out the gut.
Yeah.
And so being on this kind of health program is certainly a challenge.
Yeah.
Going back, I was with 3 people today who all had ice cream, and I just, blew it off.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes a lot of discipline. And being on this particular trip on a group of like-minded individuals who were, somebody said something to me the other day, which was, I would like that, but there's something else I want more.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, why would I create that? Is I needed some kind of wake-up call.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And has that made you step up to a higher level now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it has. I've stepped up. I can feel myself stepping up to a higher level.
Yeah.
And being open to, because I tend to be I'm here, I'm there, I'm here, I'm there. Even though I do a lot of centered work,
Mm-hmm.
being kind of a double Gemini, just from an astrological point of view, I'm good at different things. I want to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm ready for my next level and truly being fulfilled.
Yeah. Okay.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
And then the question is, do I have to go through that to get to that? I guess so.
Okay. So then the next questions will be, what else can you learn from it? What can you learn from it that's going to help you raise your life to a new level of whatever it needs to be, whether it's a fulfillment or wisdom or...
Well, being more in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about earlier about the drink your solids and
chew your liquids.
chew your liquids.
Mm-hmm.
Chew your liquids. That's a challenge, because I was eating tonight and I was slowing down and I was moderate,
Yeah.
but I was conscious of what you had said.
Yeah.
And someone recently said to me a couple of months ago, put your fork in, put it in your mouth, put the fork down.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard sometimes when you're hungry. Did you find that in your process?
Well, of eating?
Yes.
I actually never really had an issue with eating too fast. It was always something that I just kind of intuitively knew that it's just not good for me to eat fast.
Really, just knew that?
Yeah, I just knew that.
No family member, no friend told you that?
No one told me that. I just intuitively knew that from a young age. People would say, hurry up with your eating, and I would always be the last person at the table eating, and And I'd say no. It was
Did your mom ever said, "Come on, lad"?
And not my mum, usually my friend. My friend's like, "Come on, let's go and play. Hurry up and eat." You know?
Yeah.
And I'd say no. And no, I didn't like to swallow food unless it was completely broken down, because I just felt that wasn't good for me to do that.
Wow, very intuitive.
Yeah.
So now you teach people to be their potential.
Yeah. Whatever desire, whatever dream a person has, I help them achieve that. And one of my areas that I'd say I suppose expertise in is health. I've helped a lot of people get healthy, helped a lot of people lose weight, but that again is just a byproduct of getting healthy, losing the weight, and also just with the mind, with healing, with using tapping, EFT, find that very effective. But I find, I'm open to everyone who wants to achieve a certain dream coming to me, but it tends to be people who with health challenges that get attracted to me for some reason, and so I help people with the health challenges mostly.
So this tapping is, I hear tremendous things about it, and I think I told you that I had a counselor once I was working with on the phone who was doing EMT. EMT?
EFT.
EFT.
EFT, yeah.
She was doing EFT and I was doing EMT, that was the problem. So EFT, which stands for?
Emotional Freedom Techniques.
Right, and that's been helpful to you?
Absolutely, yeah. It's EFT is incredibly helpful, and it's something that you can see in the moment. I once saw a woman get hit by a lorry in a car.
Wow.
And she had her kids in the back and everything. And I went over to the car and opened the door, and she was in absolute hysterics because this big truck had almost wiped out her whole family. And she was sitting there hyperventilating in hysterics. And I just started tapping on a point on the back of her hand. It's called the Gallup point, just between these two fingers here, just in there, yeah. Just in there. And I started tapping on that point just as I was talking to her. I was talking to her, tapping on it, and within a minute, she stopped hyperventilating, she stopped crying, and then she seemed like, why is this guy tapping on me?
Yeah.
She didn't really realize what was going on, but it's just tapping balances out the energy system, because it works on the meridians of the body. So I've used the technique with clients in person, over the phone, with myself. It takes away a headache in a few minutes. If you're feeling stressed, it relaxes you, balances you within a few minutes.
Do you ever trouble going to sleep?
Going to sleep is phenomenal.
This meridian point here?
That meridian is a really good meridian, but top of the head is very good. All round. There's about 12 different meridians that they really kind of use now. Around.
I remember when I was doing it with this counselor. So which ones are you doing?
I go from the top down. I always start to the top of the head.
And how long do you do it for?
5 to 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Go to the next one.
That's number 2.
Yeah.
And number 3 is the side of the eye.
Under the eye.
Under the eye.
Under the nose.
Under the nose.
On the chin point here.
On
the collarbone. Just about 1 inch in from the center. Underneath the arm. And the back of the hand.
Now, do you say something while you're doing it?
You can do. You can have a setup phrase. So you could say, just say you're feeling stressed, and you start off tapping on the back side of the hand here. This is called the karate chop point, and you can start off by saying, even though I'm feeling really stressed.
Even though I'm feeling really stressed.
I deeply, completely love and accept myself.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
Yeah, just something right on the side there. Yeah.
And
they usually say it 3 times. So you say, even though I'm feeling
stressed,
I deeply and completely
love and accept myself.
You say it one more time. Even though I'm feeling stressed, and you can pick a number. You can say on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being so stressed and pulling my hair out, 0 being just totally neutral, totally relaxed. You could say, okay, I'm feeling maybe a 7. So you could say, even though I'm feeling this number 7 stressed, I deeply, completely love and accept myself. I use stress because it's something that, nearly everyone has stress issues these days.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can tap around the different places. Feeling stressed, tap on the top of the head.
Feeling stressed.
Feeling stressed.
Feeling stressed.
Feeling number 7 stress.
Feeling number 7 stress.
Feeling this number 7 stress.
Feeling this number 7 stress.
And then you can wonder where you're feeling it in your body. You think, oh, I'm feeling it, my solar plexus maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling this number 7 stress in my solar plexus.
Where's this one again?
And it's on the collarbone.
Just by the side.
Just about an inch in. You find the centre of the collarbone here and just go about an inch in.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling this number 7 stress in my solar plexus.
Feeling this number 7 stress in the solar plexus.
And tap on the back of the hand. And take a deep breath in. And breathe out. And then you could say, okay, on a scale of 0 to 10, what number is this stress? It's probably gone down. Probably gone down to maybe a 3 or something. And you can keep going until it goes down to 0. It's gone. And you can get rid of stress, 5 minutes. You can get rid of a headache, 5 minutes. You can do a lot. Even works on serious illnesses, serious diseases. Very, very powerful.
So with my condition, I could do that.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you can start to get in even more like positive phrases. Once you've gone past the, you know, even though I'm feeling this, you can start tapping on starting to feel better, feeling healthy, feeling energetic, feeling vital. My body's running perfectly. You can have more like affirmations that you're saying as you're tapping as well. But it's good to get the negative out of the way, focusing on what the problem is, tapping on the problem until you mostly got it away, till it's very, very low, and then start to bring in the more positive statements.
So if I was dealing with getting my white count down,
Mm-hmm.
I would be saying, I feel.
Depending on what you could start with like the more negative things, you know, even though I've got this, what would you call it?
Leukemia.
Yeah, even though I've got this leukemia.
Even though I've got
You
this.
tap on the side of the hand.
Here?
Yeah. So
Even though I've got this leukemia,
I deeply, completely love and accept myself.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
Yeah. And even though I've got this leukemia.
Even though I've got this leukemia, I completely love and accept myself.
Yeah. And even though I've got this leukemia.
Even though I've got this leukemia, I love and accept myself.
Yeah. Tap on the top of the head.
Even though I've got
We'll shorten it now. This leukemia.
This leukemia.
This leukemia.
This leukemia.
This leukemia. And then you can start to say where it is. This leukemia in my spleen, is it?
In my spleen, in my yeah.
This leukemia in my spleen.
Well, I don't know if it's in the spleen
Okay.
or
Yeah.
In this leukemia in my spleen.
Yeah.
This leukemia in my spleen.
This leukemia.
This leukemia in my spleen.
This leukemia.
This leukemia in my spleen.
Then you can start to say, breathing oxygen into my spleen.
Breathing oxygen into my spleen.
Breathing healing oxygen into my spleen.
Breathing healing oxygen into my spleen. Breathing healing oxygen into my spleen.
Breathing
healing oxygen into my spleen. Breathing healing oxygen into my spleen. Breathing healing oxygen into my spleen.
Breathing light into my spleen.
Breathing light into my spleen.
Breathing light into my
Breathing
spleen.
light into my spleen.
Breathing healing light into my spleen.
Healing light into my spleen.
Breathing love 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 into my spleen.
Breathing healing light into my spleen.
Breathing healing light into my spleen.
My spleen is healing more and more every minute.
My spleen is healing more and more every minute.
There is no room for any disease in my spleen.
There's say it again?
There is no room for any disease.
There's no room for any disease in my spleen.
There's only light in my
There's
spleen.
only light in my spleen.
There's only love in my spleen.
There's only love in my spleen. There's only love in my spleen. There's only love in my spleen.
And take a deep breath in. Let it out. One more time, breathing all that light in. Breathing all that love in. Breathing all that healing energy in. Filling up with light.
That's awesome.
How does that feel?
That feels really good.
Mm.
It was like I was like in denial about the feeling.
Right.
Which is kind of a little thing for me, is really feeling the feeling.
Okay.
But just admitting it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, admitting it, taking the lid off,
Yeah.
and going for it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, is better than keeping it all in.
Yeah. Well, I can feel a shift in the energy now, between us in this area.
Yes.
Shift in the energy.
The shift in the energy.
Mm-hmm.
Because you think, why would I say it on camera? Do you know what I mean? It's kind of gutsy.
Yeah.
But it's more honest. And it shows that I'm really willing. I'm really willing.
To step up to whatever you need
to
to
step up to. Yeah, yeah. So what gives you the most fulfillment and satisfaction out of what you do working with people?
I suppose seeing results. Seeing people get it. See and empowering themselves and having belief. Because at the end of the day, I believe it's about empowering yourself. Rather than going to a healer and then doing the healing and you walking away going, they healed me. You know, it's being able to walk away and say, I now have these tools where I can heal myself. Or I can empower my life. Or I can, you know.
It's interesting because I mentioned to you Agape that I'm a practitioner there.
Yeah.
And so after the service, people go to the back of the sanctuary if they choose to, for prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And I do that on many, many occasions. And after the prayer, I'm in that exalted state.
Right. Yeah.
Because I don't know what, you know, I'm outside of myself,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm serving that other person fully.
Yes.
And then they walk away, and I'm feeling exalted from it.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, if I can inspire others, then that inspires me.
Exactly. So in closing, if you could give three people, you can give people three choices, options, tips, things to contemplate being or doing in their life, what would they be?
I would say that the first thing is to you got to be honest with yourself.
That's huge.
Yeah, you got to be truthful with yourself, and a way to do that is connecting with your heart. You know, so very simply, is to connect with your heart, is to touch your heart, your heart, and then decide who you are. Decide what you want to happen in your life, who you want to be, how you want to express yourself, and then go about doing it. And just decide to be honest with yourself every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And live a life by your design, not by what others told you should be or should do. Choose your own beliefs that will serve you. Beliefs that will bring you the greatest joy and empowerment, not beliefs that will disempower you. Because beliefs are, you know, they're open to change. And no matter what beliefs we've been given by, whether it's the doctors, whether it's our parents, these aren't true. These are just their beliefs, their belief systems, their models of the world that they projected onto us.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to live by those models of the world. We can choose our own model of the world. We can choose our own belief system. So choose empowering beliefs. And then start to ingrain them within ourselves. Once you choose, this is who I am, this is who I'm going to be, this is what I'm going to do in my life. Once you do that, then just start taking actions, and you know, habits don't change overnight. But with a little bit of willpower, we can change those. And we can start to create new habits by creating little rituals that we do every day, like saying affirmations, like going out and doing our exercise, like doing our visualization process, having these little rituals that we do, like writing out all our desires. A very powerful thing is to, whatever we want to do in our life, is to have a reason why. Why do we want to do it? And if we have enough reasons why, that's like rocket fuel. So a great thing to do if we want to heal from something, if we want to heal from a debilitating disease, write out 100 reasons why we want to do that. And then look at those 100 reasons, look at them every single day, and make that the fuel to take the actions every day that's gonna give you that result.
Mm-hmm.
So that'd be a good start, right?
That'd be a brilliant start. I got to tell you, this has been an amazing conversation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Paul.
Absolutely amazing conversation, and I will never forget it. And you're someone who is definitely living their purpose.
Mm.
You feel that?
Yeah.
Living your purpose. And here you were, born in Ireland, now living in Spain.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your next step?
My next step is I like to write screenplays, so I want to make movies. That's my big vision for the future, is I want to make movies.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that'll be our next conversation.
Okay.
All right. This is a gentleman that you're going to hear a lot about in what he's doing now and what he's going to do in the future, because he knows what he wants. So, Matthew Armstrong, great pleasure. And
thank you very much, Paul. It's been a pleasure. Thank
absolutely. You. And thank you for watching. And we'll see you next time. Enjoy and really be your potential. And you can access you by going to
www.beyourpotential.net.
.net. Beyourpotential.net. Be well.
Thank you.